Hi, this is Kim Chanley for Tennis Reach. Here's another quick tip, which I call short to the ball, that we're going to work on at the beginning of our Roger Federer Forehand Paradigm series. So the concept of short to the ball, as I explained in the first part of the long series of videos, is that in all hitting sports, especially baseball, golf, and tennis, our three main sports, we don't want to have a long swing. So if we're a batter out here with our bat sort of over our shoulder like this, typical, right, getting set up, we don't want to move the bat back here and then start turning and swinging the bat. We're going to end up in the same position that we've talked about, where the bat is coming around, closing off its face, if you will, and grounding or pulling the ball to the left. Instead, and you can see this if you look at any batting instruction sites, which there are dozens on the web, some very good ones. The batter should basically throw their hands towards contact point, and then the bat is going to come around in a lagging kind of position at contact, of course. But the idea, just like the great hitter Ted Williams said, the key to successfully hitting a baseball is wait. So we can't wait if we start the swinging all the way back here. We got an extra couple feet of swing that we don't need, and it's really going to affect our timing and everything else. So instead, batters throw the butt of the racket or butt of the bat towards the contact area, and then the swing happens here at the end in a rapid turning action driven by the hips. Well, similar in golf, right? So we take the golf club back in a turn. We don't want to start releasing and swinging all the way back here. We're adding 2, 3, 4 feet of swing into this golf swing. What's going to happen is the same thing that happens in all the hitting sports, is the club's going to pivot around and sweep from an outside in to the ball, smothering it, pulling the shot. A lot of hooks are created that way. Similar and almost identical, I should say, we have the same phenomena in tennis, where, again, most people are sort of starting their swing kind of in this position, right? And then they get very anxious. They want to get the racket lined up, and they start this racket swinging from all the way back here. So we got about 3 feet of swing that we don't really need, that creates all kinds of timing and closing off the face issues. Instead, we want to drive from the slotted position down here where the racket tip way down, much lower than most players think, and drive up with our hips, turn, and we want to really throw this butt of the racket towards the net post, almost 45 degrees out. Because if we don't, like some coaches believe that you should drag the racket head through towards the target, okay? That's just going to create an early swinging phenomena, which we want to delay. So I'll show you from the rear how this might look. So here we are in the Roger Federer swing part of the phase, with the racket in the slot position behind, the racket tip down, and the butt of the racket not facing towards the opponent, which is going to cause us to swing this racket too soon. But the butt of the racket basically pointed out about the net post, and I've laid down this piping so you can see that this line more clearly. Because the tendency when we do this exercise, and you'll see it immediately when you try it, is immediately people will start to align this butt of the racket towards the target, and they'll quickly lose this line. So the beginning of the process is driving this of the racket butt towards that net post before we swing. So we're driving here, and then the swing is going to happen. But we don't want to drive here, because that's going to just pivot this racket around.
You can't see the net post to the right, but you can clearly see that the butt of the racket of Roger Federer is pointed 45 degrees out towards that net post, and that's where he's driving his arm and the butt of the racket, not linearly towards the target.
So the way we begin the sequence of this short to the ball, learning this feel, is to start closer to the net, where we're not worried about power and getting the ball far over the net. We just want to get the essential dynamics of this feel, this turn, this driving of the racket tip towards the net post, and then catching the inside of the ball, squaring up in a brushing in a vertical action. So we're not worried about power. We just want to feel the inside edge of that contact and the brush up of the ball. So we can just do that. I have this little stand here to demonstrate sort of the orientation, but obviously we probably won't have that to work with. And we just do drop hits. So again, we try to keep things simple and focus on the different elements in the field. So we don't want to have the person starting with a full racket motion. We basically want to get them just oriented, this racket in the position for this dynamic release, which is towards the net post and the tip way down. So what's going to happen, as you'll notice if you watch your players do this, is that this dip of the racket puts your hand and racket in a relatively weak position. You don't have a strong grip on the racket, and you don't need it because of this whipping action that's going to come and the leverage that will come into a contact. The players are reluctant to give up a strong grip on the racket. So you may have them start this way, but I guarantee in about 2 seconds the racket's going to come up here where they have a much stronger grip on the racket. Now this is wrong in a couple ways. From this position we're going to have a shallow approach to our topspin shot, and then we're going to try to do little gimmicks to try to get more topspin. We don't want that. We want to trust our swing. So we have to have a very low to high arc of this swing path, and this racket has to be dipped much lower than the player would expect, and the hand position is not strong. So the other thing that a stronger, more horizontal lined up position will happen is that it will get this horizontal unhinging at contact point, this swinging gate that closes off the racket face too soon. So this weak orientation and the racket oriented dip this way is going to give us this upward pushing arc at and turning arc at contact that we want. So just do 20 drop hits from the service line, working on this feel, making sure that the player is doing this, keeping this position each time, keeping driving this racket forward before swinging. And believe me, it's going to take quite a lot of practice to get this feel, because people will just want to swing hard from back here. We want to be short to the ball. Now, as you, as a player or as a coach, working on the short to the ball concept, once they have the basic dynamic going correctly, the orientation of the racket, the drive out to the net post correct, then they can move back in the court and practice from there. So you might do 20 from the service line, 20 from 3/4, and 20 from back here. Again, we want contact on the inside edge of the ball with the hand lagging behind the hips and the racket lagging behind the hand, and we want the racket still to be coming up at contact, not having reached a lined up position and closing off. So those are the keys that we're looking for, and we can just practice this and practice this every day for a month, a little bit, and because this is the core sort of feel and dynamic and swing plane that we need to understand and master if we're going to be more like Federer.
We'll take one more look at this short to the ball racket swing of Roger Federer in the new paradigm that we're looking at. Again, we're going to get much better timing when we're short to the ball.